morning, afternoon, and evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Zach Renon. I am joined by my friends Jake from Peg City Hockey and Coach Ryan from Hot Garbage Sports. So, well, what else is there to say? We won game one. It was
exactly.
Great. Woo! Yeah, we all have done videos on it. Check them out. But also, game two now. We've won one. We're a quarter of the way to being a quarter of the way there. And what are we going to look forward to for game two? What is there to say? Because game one wasn't perfect. We've said that before. We've said that a lot. And we probably will never have a perfect game. We can get very close, though. So what do you guys think are some of the things we need to adjust in game two? We'll start with you, Coach.
Yeah. Take it away, Coach.
Okay, boys. I'm going to say right now, there is no such thing as a perfect hockey game, but that was perfect. Sorry. You guys can be the voice of other stuff, but that was perfect. And the reason it was perfect, step one, how the heck do the Jets just switch a light switch and learn how to play hockey? And what I mean by learning how to play hockey, how do they understand how to contain themselves, hit at the right time, and not overplay the puck? The Jets' problem against the Oilers has always been overpressure, overhitting, causing turnovers in the D zone, leading to transition scoring and rushes. But the Jets, as I said on my channel, they were perfectly timed in their 1-2-2 forechecks or their 2-3 forechecks. That's just how many people you're sending in down deep. And they always made sure to either outnumber the Oilers or equal the Oilers. So it was always a 1 versus 1, a 2 versus 2, or the Jets outnumbered them. And the key to hockey is creating small little 2-on-1s, whether you're on defense or offense, to win. They did it like all game. And that is why Connor McDavid ends up being shut down. Connor Hellebuck plays a perfect game. You can't ask for better from him. That game could have been lost if it wasn't for 2 big saves. It's really hard to score if you're the Oilers and this guy isn't giving out rebounds, and he isn't. And then you end up just looking at the depth down the lineup and what drives, I mean, it's going to drive us all nuts, but Paul Maurice was right, boys. He was right. He said playoff hockey is different. He was correct. He said these are the lines that should work. Guess he was right. Pionk, Morrissey together? Screw that. He'll show us. He did. So Paul Maurice wins the day.
All right,
Jake.
Boy, do I got a rebuttal for you, Coach, because although the Winnipeg Jets come out, it shocked me, because I'm not going to lie, if you've watched my videos leading up to this series, every video I've done, except the one I said how we could win, and ironically, what I said how they could win, that's how we won. Point being, I didn't think that this game was perfect. There was a lot, like beyond a lot, of good things that this did, and improved play, like you said. One thing I liked, even though for some reason on those prime highlight reel 2-on-1s and 3-on-1s or whatever it is, the Winnipeg Jets will never score because they've forever cursed me and my heart and the pain that it brings me for having to watch that. But I do agree with you there. They're creating those little rushes like that where you have the guy coming in who's open. That's very important in hockey. You're right. That's key. That's how you score. That's how you win games. Every team that's won, that's how you win. That's how you have a dynamic offense, by creating space. Just like in basketball, just like in any sport that demands you to be creative to score. You need to be able to create space. They did that. But there were still times and still things that I saw throughout this game that can were worrisome for me, because there were complaints I had with this team going throughout the entire regular season. And I don't expect this team to change. No one can, right? Like, we all know what this team's identity is going into the playoffs. We're fans. We've watched every game. Zach, you've covered every game. You know exactly what this team is going into the playoffs. That's why we were also skeptical. But just because there was improved play in some areas, because we have that experience in the playoffs, and I like to say it this way because, it's kind of true. We're not a rookie team anymore. We're like, Connor Hellebuck just had his 28th birthday. Like, we're not young guys anymore. We've made it to the Western Conference Final. We've been to the playoffs for 4 years in a row now, I think, if I'm not mistaken. If you count the bubble thing from last year, because it's been 3 years of first round exits, so going back then, right? That's good. This team knows how to make the playoffs, and they have had success. But for this team to be successful, they need to learn how to change the little problems in their game that they have throughout it. The top line not playing defense, the top 6 kind of at times being inconsistent, and relying on guys to score when you can't get any offense is important. But you can't rely on that to win you a series. Those guys are get you clutch games and steal you games, but they're not what you rely on for a whole series or a playoff run. I didn't see enough from that top line, in my opinion, to warrant any praise. In my personal opinion, I didn't like them at all defensively, as usual, and I thought that they were very lazy in the offensive zone at times and in their own zone. But I think there's a lot of positives to focus on, so I'm not going to heart gripe on all the negatives, but this team needs to improve on the little things and have improved play from certain individuals to be a complete contender and win potentially this series, in my opinion.
Yeah, honestly. It's funny. I would say that I was obviously very excited. That's the understatement of the video. But it's interesting because with that win, we now have to keep it going. And we've built up quite a bit of hype now after this game. And for
That we have.
example, the Jets social media, they posted a photo rent-free with McDavid in it.
Oh, God.
Why?
I didn't see that.
Why? They posted it. Yeah, have you seen it, Coach? It's
I have seen it. I think it was the
Why?
right post. Nope,
why?
love it.
No, but
You must not be such a skeptical person like when it comes to me and Zach about
But
these
if
things
you
in sports,
lose
man. Because
now, they'll never let you forget.
Okay, boys, sports isn't nice. It isn't fun. I'm not here to shake hands, kiss babies, and give participation trophies.
we're not saying
Screw
that
'em.
either.
Screw them. Troll
It's
them.
not that.
Throw it out.
It ain't about that,
Rent-free
though.
Rent-free
wait-
McDavid. Rent-free.
Wait
Pionk
until
all
you
day.
beat him.
Yeah, but you
You
know
have
what?
3 more wins you need.
Okay, that's
So,
Coach, I want to talk
here's-
on that real quick because I think this is something that we should talk about because in our very first episode, I alluded and Zach did as well, and you too, we all talked about how Pionk at the start of the season was the McDavid stopper, especially in those first couple games. He was amazing against him. So hopefully that's something we can see because he was great last night against him, but I just want to point out, he was only good in those matchups for a couple of games. After that, where did Pionk go for the rest of the season? So that's why I still have my disbelief in this team because I don't think that they're going to be successful in the long run unless they can fix up these problems. So game 1 great, but Pionk's got to be like
Okay.
that through the rest of the season and the rest of the series.
So here's my preview for game 2. The Oilers, we all agree, are not a deep team. That's correct.
Nope.
We agree it's 4 players, right? Most likely 2 players. You could even argue 1 player. Sorry, Draisaitl fans. All right, so we agree with that. If the Jets are going to play this system, a few things are going to happen. 1, Connor McDavid hasn't had a ton of time in the playoffs. He's not like Sidney Crosby. He's not well seasoned. It took Crosby 3 or 4 goes before he finally figured his life out in here because he was getting beat up and kicked. This is the first time McDavid has entered physical playoff hockey. The Jets are built for the Central. They beat them up. Pionk was all over him. He beat them up. Is McDavid going to respond? Likely, but can McDavid in this top 4 respond if they're getting shut down this way? Probably not, because I know you have concerns over the fact that the first line didn't score. I don't, because if our first line can cancel their first line,
But
our
they
line
didn't cancel
2,
their
3,
first line.
but our line 2, 3, and 4, our depth can score. Their
That's
depth
true.
cannot score.
And
They do
I-
not have scoring
I
depth.
100% give you that argument there. I don't even think Oilers fans will really argue that point either because
Yep.
when you look at depth, there's no argument there that if you're an Oilers fan, you'd rather have the Jets' depth over your depth. There's no question there. We have one of the best third-line centers in the hockey in the NHL, in my opinion, in Adam Lowry and how he plays his job. So I agree there totally. But kind of leads me to what I said about the first line is that do not think for this team to be successful in the long run, the first line would need to be better because maybe this is just me and watching them and being such a heavy criticizer of that 55 line with Wheeler and Connor on that top line. I'm not a big fan of it. I've been very well documented saying that. But at times I saw way too many opportunities for the Oilers to come in and steal the puck because of slow movements just in the body and with the puck, not being able to skate fast enough, being almost like very sluggish, gliding. Just these problems that the Jets have had throughout this entire season and the fact that McDavid usually has picked that apart. That top line, especially when they played that way in the regular season. And there were times last night where he did pick them apart. But the only difference was we had Connor Hellebuck in net and they had Mike Smith. And the real Mike Smith.
You don't have to worry about that though, because when we talk about pick them apart, there's ways to score goals in hockey, but the way the Oilers score against the Jets is on the rush and in the transition. They didn't pick them apart in the transition. The Oilers, in my opinion, cannot beat the Jets. We saw it. How long of sustained pressure did they have in our offensive zone? Did nothing
times
with
a
it,
lot.
especially against Hellebuck. They need to score on the rush and get Hellebuck moving left and right. They're not going to be able to do that there. So you shut down the rush, you shut down the Oilers if you're the Jets. That's my opinion.
I agree with your opinion there. I think that's exactly what the team needs to do as well. But I just don't have enough. One performance for me isn't enough because I've seen them play like that before. And not to mention the fact there was a weird game defensively. Like I think we can all acknowledge that. The fact that our best defenders were Logan Stanley and Tucker Pullman, like that is shocking. Let's be real. Like no one expected that. Coach, for the last show, me and you were arguing just how bad Tucker Pullman actually is. He's one of the worst defenders we've had ever on the ice for the Jets, going back when there's some of their worst ones in the pylons they've iced. So yeah,
Zach,
Coach, continue.
Zach,
please.
you're gonna have to talk to us about Tucker Poolman. I acknowledged it on my channel. He had the game of the century. So
tell me about it.
Dude, but he played
Tucker,
great. So Zach, tell me about it because I can't do it.
That's
Tucker
that toe
Poolman
drag in
made
the
my-
first.
Tucker Poolman made my top 3, and I think this is the first time Tucker Poolman's ever made my top 3. And the season is 56 games long, and that guy never sniffed the top 3. He was just doing a bunch of simple plays. He made a dangle in the first period.
That was beautiful
And I was
too.
like,
That toe
"Who
drag was
are
perfect.
you?" It was so fast that I didn't even give him the recognition. I'm just like, oh, nice move by Dylan DeMello. And then the play move kept going on. And then someone's like, man, did you see that play that Pullman made? I'm like, no, it wasn't Pullman. That couldn't have been Pullman. Nah.
Exactly.
It was Pullman. Like,
Neil
Pullman
Pionku,
looks-
move over offensive defenseman
yeah.
Tucker Pullman.
He looks comfortable. And
Which-
he looks like...
Which was
like
shocking.
He jumped in the rush in a way that didn't hinder it. And it's kind of a brilliant way that he jumped in the rush because he didn't jump in the rush in the way that we screw up rushes by creating a passing option. He just said, no, screw it, I'm just going to go to the net. Because if you don't
What
shoot
have
glove
all
hand
of us
on
been
Mike
saying
Smith,
all season long?
if you don't shoot glove hand on Mike Smith, his rebound control is not where it needs to be. He took it right off the chest and he went to swipe the puck away, and it was 1 second too late. Like, being able to cover the puck quickly is something that Mike Smith does not always have. He relies
Totally
a
agree.
lot on his glove hand to catch it, and if he's not catching it cleanly, he's trying to swipe it away quickly with his stick because he has that confidence in his ability to move pucks.
Totally agree. Can I talk about that rush for a second though? 'Cause
Absolutely.
We're gonna get onto Mike Smith, but a lot of people don't realize on that rush, Logan Stanley almost cost us the game on that. When he picked up the puck going back, we're talking about the Tucker Pullman goal,
Yeah.
just before Logan Stanley had the puck in our defensive zone and he threw it up the middle. The
right.
Jets players have been
I remember
throwing
that.
pucks up the
Yep.
middle as defense,
Yeah.
and it's junk.
That scared
And
me.
what
Gave me a
made the
heart
Jets
attack.
so special, and Paul Maurice is right again, his fourth line is out there, his responsible fourth line, back checking like crazy, ends up picking up the stick lift because that should have been an Oiler should have come in and got a shot on that easily, makes the stick lift, moves the puck over to an activating Tucker Pullman, who then carries the puck with a beautiful mid-lane drive, meaning he's driving the two defensemen back, drop pass to Wheeler, gets a goal. But Stanley almost blew that, and the right play in hockey there wouldn't have generated a goal. Stanley should have carried the puck around the back of the net.
Mm-hmm.
That should have been it.
Yeah.
Or fired it around the back of the net to Tucker Pullman. This is a really simple play, but he continues to put it up the middle because he's young and inexperienced. Thank goodness for the fourth line and Thompson because he saves the game, and that gives Pullman the ability to score. So,
Man, I can't. It's just so
Huge.
ironic that
What
as
a me-
fans
yeah,
we just
you-
completely bashed. Well, not bashed at
You-
times, I would
no,
say,
no, no.
but like,
No. You. Not.
hey
okay,
boys,
Pullman-
what are you talking
okay,
about?
Pullman-
Hey,
no,
go
no, no,
on,
no,
let's
no,
just
no, no,
all
no,
get
no, no,
along
no, no,
here,
no, no,
right?
No.
I'm a very
no.
non-biased, angry,
No,
calm
no,
fan.
no,
I
no.
don't talk trash about anybody.
Jake, I'll meet you halfway on Pullman, but Nate Thompson, though, you immediately questioned the first game he was in. Then he got a point, and you're like, I guess I'm gonna have to deal with him for the rest of the season now.
And I was right.
Yes, you do it.
Okay, you know what? I actually, this is kind of leading me into what I want to talk about going into this next game because the Jets are in a very, very interesting spot right now. Not only because they kind of upset Game 1, where no one really expected them to win it. Let's be real, they
With
weren't
less
in
roster
anything.
guys. Yeah.
And the big thing that I want to talk about is you have a great game from this roster. If you're coach, coach, you love everything about this game, so you must love the roster, or at least like it from the stance that they played well, correct?
So I went into the game just like everybody else.
Me too. Exactly.
I posted on my TikTok that this roster was junk.
I saw that.
in
I had
terms of
viewers.
lineup.
I had viewers.
Done.
Viewers of mine were sending that to
Done.
me on Twitter and on Instagram.
Done. I was like, this is
I
a
got that sent to me
junk
on
lineup.
Instagram.
What are you doing? But here's the thing. I've admitted it. Maurice proved us wrong. Everything that he said about that game came true. The thing is, can Maurice do it 4 more times? He rolled his lines with equal ice. He broke up Morrissey and Pionk, which I still think was wrong, but he did it, and he got a W. He ended up relying on the fourth line more than he thought. He said there was going to be hits, it's going to be violent, and we're going to score junk goals, and that's the playoffs. It's like he's a fortune teller. It is. So we'll see if he can hold it for 4 games. My optimism for Game 2 is very, very high because it is now up to the Oilers to respond. The Jets have already done their job. They stole the game, which is absolutely huge. And then, not only have they stole a game on the road, they have the momentum because Connor Hellebuck and Pionk are in McDavid's head, and they don't have the depth to figure it out if McDavid and Draisaitl don't. So that's where I sit with it. I think the Jets actually are going to take game 2. I think it'll be close. And if they don't take game 2, the worst case scenario, they are going to beat the holy heck out of the Oilers. And that is going to affect them in game 3 and game 4 because 62 hits hurts. It hurts a lot.
You know, I kind of just briefly touching on that. I saw so many fans on Twitter bashing like the Jets and fans that were saying we played a physical game and being like, those were 62, P word hits. Nothing tough about that. These were just guys bumping. They counted everything. And I was like, what hockey game are you watching? Like, any physicality is good physicality. It doesn't matter what it is. It's the playoffs. I don't understand that, man. It's just like the Jets homers. We always have those fans that they never agree with the popular opinion. They just think that everything is always wrong with this team. We always have those Winnipeg fans.
Well, they don't understand what hitting is used for. Hitting is used to separate man from puck. That's all it's used for.
Exactly.
And Blake Wheeler said it in his interview after playing the Oilers in the regular season. They put themselves out of position to lay big hits. In this game, they took the hits that were given to them to separate man from puck, and that was it. They were back on defense. They didn't worry about laying hits and getting low. They worried about laying hits to separate man from puck and get back to D. So they used it tactically. So you can call it a P word all you want, but the bottom line is it works. And if I hit you with 62 jabs, I don't care if it's a right hook, you're eventually going to be beaten up by it.
Thank you,
So
Coach.
These are guys that just haven't played hockey. They're waiting for the Tom Wilson putting Curtis Lazar into the bench, which looks awesome. But guess who's winning that series? The Bruins. Check out my channel. Guess what I said? They're going to beat up the Bruins, and the Bruins, like rubber bands, are going to take it and beat them. So, whatever. Fans don't get it sometimes.
Exactly. And that kind of leads me back into exactly. I want to talk going into, we talked about our thoughts a lot in all of our videos on the podcast so far. Great game. There was criticism. I kind of want to go and lead into the lineup going into game 2 because that's what I was just touching on earlier about how the Jets are in such a weird situation because you win a game you're not supposed to win. And even Money Puck, we had a 20% chance of the deserve to win meter. I don't know if you've seen that stat before from Money Puck, but that was for that last night game at the end of it. In favor of all advanced statistics, they did not think the Jets should win. They had a 20% chance of deserving to win.
Okay,
but that's not what I'm trying to talk about. I know
Yeah.
they don't. I'm not talking about Money Puck here. The Money Puck is Money Puck. They're just a stat thing for gambling and people that whatever. I'm just throwing that in there. They weren't supposed to. That's just the media percentage and whatnot, the expectance that we had. Point being is that when you go into a game now, you potentially, we don't know yet, potentially have your best forward coming back and your second best defensive center coming back in Pierre-Luc Dubois. Now that adds a huge question to what do you do with your top 6? Do you change it around? Do you bring in guys? Who do you take out in the bottom 6? Do you pull out Vesalainen, who had a great game? Do you pull out Donato, who's been great so far? It's a very easy, really situational predicament that they're in right now because it's like I personally think that you should roll out, keep the guys in that are performing hot, that are in the lineup and fighting because they have something to lose and they're playing great. Like I don't want to see Donato come out personally. I thought he had a great game and I thought he's played great. And I'm just curious about your guys' thoughts
Who's
there.
the odd man out?
Exactly.
And also, I will say this, though. I think it's important to say, Ehlers was seen in a practice jersey, because if you look at the Instagram post, Ehlers is in the background with a, not a practice jersey, a no contact jersey.
Was that today?
Is the one that's wearing, yes.
Okay.
PLD is wearing a blue jersey. So
that's what I told you guys that in my live stream yesterday.
Ehlers is still out.
I think personally what's going to happen is going to be PLD game 2, Ehlers game 3. Worst case scenario, game 4 for Ehlers on that Sunday. But whatever the next game 4 is.
Who would you take out? Because honestly, I don't know. Like I feel like you kind of have to break off that fourth line because yes, there's people on it that did well, and I understand that that's a very responsible defensive line. But at the same time, I don't want to take out the guys who are hot or at least had impressive performances because it kind of just immediately like nullifies how they can perform afterwards. Like, I'll put it this way, okay? So think about when Kiviranta came in for the Stars last year. Out of nowhere gets a hat trick. How would you feel if Kiviranta sat the next game because, for example, someone like Tyler Seguin came back if he wasn't there?
That's my concerns.
You would get frustrated, rightfully so. So, in my opinion, I think the odd man out, even though I think he might have gotten an assist, I think Trevor Lewis is the guy who goes out for me.
No chance.
No way.
No?
Paul Maurice loves Trevor Lewis, and Trevor Lewis is our best defensive forward.
Trevor
probably.
Lewis is your only Stanley Cup winner on that roster. He is never coming out.
Who would you take out?
Honestly, if you're asking me, and this is nothing against his performance because I thought he's been great, I'm taking out Matthew Perreault.
Matthew Perreault? Okay, that's not bad either.
Because
okay.
I think that Matthew Perreault, although having a pretty good bounce-back season, has been cold for the last about 20 games. I think that Vesalainen brings more offense, so I think he's at this point right now with his play of late, I think it's replaceable.
Okay, actually, yes. Yes, that's fair, actually. Because when I think about it, if you think about Lewis and Thompson, they usually need to play together. Perreault's the guy who moves around, and I think he's the guy who you can afford to
Perreault is also
off.
a very respectable, experienced vet, and he's played on the first line in this club. He's played on the fourth line in this club. I don't think he would have a problem being pulled out of a game or whatever. He's a very, well, obviously players are going to be pissed about getting pulled out of a Stanley Cup playoff game. That's not what I mean. But I meant, if it's for the greater good, he's a smart enough player to be like, okay, I think this is a better roster. Perreault's that type of guy. He's very smart hockey sense. I think he's going to be a good coach. Personally, I agree with you.
I agree with you. I would also like to say, to add to that point, that Perreault is the guy who also got put on waivers at the beginning of this year, and he totally took it like a champ. He cleared waivers, luckily enough, and here we are. He's definitely willing to take that step, I think.
Coach, to you.
All right, let's shake the magic 8 ball and tell you both how you're wrong.
All right, who you pulling out then?
It is either going to be Vesalainen or Donato. I think it's going to be Donato. I understand what you're saying, but he's out. Perreault has earned the trust of the coach, and this guy loves real pros. He says that term all the time. He is not taking out his guy.
What the hell is a real pro?
Ask Paul Maurice. I don't know, but he says it all the time.
Paul Maurice's real pro is a guy that knows that I don't even know, actually. I can't even begin to describe it. Fuck, he's called every bum from here to Timbuktu a freaking pro at this point. Mark Letestu, Nick Shore, how many other guys we got? Matt Hendricks at 40 years old.
I'm not telling you what I would do. I'm telling you what Pomo is going to do. Line 1 stays the same. Line 2 becomes Stasny, Vesalainen, PLD. Line 3 becomes Kopp, Lowry, and Appleton. Yeah. It becomes Kopp, Lowry, and Appleton on 3. And then you end up with Perreault, Thompson, and Lewis on line 4. No change to the D. That's simple.
But
I get that.
Perreault's the guy who you put in the box when you have too many men penalties.
One second, Zach. I get what you're saying there, but I want to know, Coach, I get what you're saying, and I actually agree with it. But I'm just curious, just for throwing shit to the wall and see what sticks. Who would be your pick? If you're the coach of the Jets right now, who are you pulling out? Because I agree with you. Realistically, Tonato's coming out. I don't want it, but it will happen. Vesalainen, his offense was too deadly. Even though Donato got a good tip goal, Vesalainen's shot was dangerous. That was a dangerous scoring opportunity. So I agree with you there, but who would be your pick if you're the coach right now?
Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would do exactly what I just said.
Damn it.
Do it. I think it's the right play.
All right.
Sorry.
All right.
Donato's
I get
out.
that.
Yeah.
I get it.
Coach backing up coach. Okay, all right.
Bench him.
Game recognizing game.
Well, here's the thing. Donato did amazing, and he is a very good depth player, but you got to think a guy that's put in the commitment time that Perreault has to the organization, the relationships he has in the locker room, the trust he's earned to the coach. And Donato doesn't fit the odd, awkward spot of the top 6. Now, Vesalainen could move down into the third line, or you could keep Donato in and put him on the third line if you want more of a checker. You could absolutely take Vesalainen out, but I feel like he wants to get Kopp, Lowry, and Appleton back together, so it just feels like Vesalainen's the only person that's skilled enough to plug in on that top 6, which is why I don't think he ends up going out.
Would you see Toninato at any point rejoining the roster, even if they have the full healthy squad? Or not without Ehlers?
The only way I could see him getting in is if Matthew Perreault goes off the deep end, which sometimes he does, and starts taking too many slashing penalties and silly calls.
I think
he hasn't done that this year, though.
No, this year has been an odd year for Matthew Perreault.
He passed that baton to Blake Wheeler. Blake Wheeler now has that.
Yes,
he's like, here you go, buddy. He got rid of the white stick, is what it is. He got rid of the lightsaber, as I like to call it. It's one of those things, though. I would say is not to necessarily don't rule him out, because I think us having options in who we play in our bottom 6 is good to have,
without a doubt.
Because the problem with this team, which we've said about a lot, is sometimes how stuck they are in their ways, and so having options would always it'll give you options. Options are good.
And that's why I picked the lineup I picked, because you're right. He's stuck in his way. He's very easy to predict at this point.
Yeah, he is. Just to end off this segment about Donato, I think we've all shared our good thoughts there. I just want to throw this in, let it stew in the back burner overnight going into tomorrow's matchup. We are undefeated with Donato in the lineup. So, all that being said, that might have a little effect on the locker room. I'm not a big jinxing guy, but I like that number. I like that stat right now. Just me going into a playoff matchup. So moving on from Donato, though, and moving on from the lineups, what is the one thing that you expect to see the Oilers do differently going into tomorrow's matchup against, or today's matchup, I should actually be saying, matchup against the Winnipeg Jets? What are your thoughts there, Coach, on what do you think the Oilers need to do much better to actually improve? Do you think, because like you said earlier, the rush was very well protected, and the Jets did a good job
They're
on
changing their
that.
lines.
So what do you think they're going to need to do to actually combat that and play a little bit more dynamically, if they can even?
Because they are only running a 4-team squad, if the Jets keep playing the same way they're playing, the Jets are going to win. This is the Jets series to lose now because they have figured their lives out. If they follow this system, the Oilers really don't have the depth, in my opinion, to compete with the Jets.
I agree.
The only way they end up winning is Connor McDavid putting on McJesus God-like performances and beating 2 or 3 Jets as he's outnumbered to get to the net to score, or Connor Hellebuck falls apart. I think it is more likely that the Jets fall apart and give the series to the Oilers than the Oilers can adjust to the Jets, because I don't know how you adjust a team that is built around 2 guys.
I agree with that.
So that's my thought. I actually don't think there is anything they can do if the Jets want to impose their will and play this way.
I like the way you're approaching this with your take, because I've seen a lot of Jets fans that were like me, who were not very confident in the squad, and then after one game we win, they're completely on the bandwagon. And that makes sense. Be hyped for a playoff win in a game you weren't expected to. I get that. I'm hyped too, don't get me wrong. But I still think that there are things with this team that need to be fundamentally changed for them to succeed. And I do think that although the Oilers, like you said, and the depth, like without a doubt, I said that in my video when I talked about how the Jets can win, where I really focused on how they can win and what play they need to do to be successful. I said depth needs to show up. You need to have performances from guys like Lewis, guys who are veterans, guys who, like Donato even, guys who can come in and give you the magic play, as I like to say, And that happened tomorrow. But I want to kind of throw this back towards the offense, what we're talking about. Do you think that let's be real, ever since Ehlers went out, the offense crumbled in the regular season? We all know that. Yep. That's when it all started. So, question to both of you going into tomorrow's matchup. If you get Ehlers to return Game 3, you think that could completely spark this team up and see where we were before the losing streak and kind of be back to where we were, not the greatest, but able to still compete for first in the North? Because let's not forget, we were 3 points behind the Leafs at one point, right before that losing streak. We were right there. It was ours to lose because we exactly
picked right at the top. Can I say one thing though, actually, about what Coach was saying? It's worth noting because I think I read this somewhere. The Oilers were practicing their lines and they were having the lines they were running was top line was McDavid, Draisaitl, and Dominic Cahoon was the top line they were doing. And that kind of just more or less plays into what you were saying, Coach. How they retool their team is not what they do with the majority of their team. It's just pretty much are we going to put the 2 guys together? And if so, because those guys apparently were doing way more reps than the entire team was in comparison. They moved Puljujärvi down to the second line, and I forget who they had him with, but it's interesting that after one loss, the Oilers are immediately going to the let's put McDavid and Draisaitl back together.
Well, they have to. Like, it's what Coach said.
They have to, yes. But, it's... Where do you go from there? If the Jets win, today, where do the Oilers go? Because you're out of luck then. Because you've done 2 different ways, and both of them would have not worked.
So they're expecting the speed of Draisaitl and McDavid to be able to break up that Jets neutral zone defensive coverage. Mm-hmm. It can happen. I'm not going to say it will happen, though. So this team, Dave Tippett basically builds this team among get the puck to 97 and all else failing, get it to Draisaitl.
Right.
That's it. This whole team is built around getting the puck to 2
It's very well known.
Yes, and that's fine because it breeds success. The problem is we saw the Montreal Canadiens using a very similar system to this handle the Oilers. The Montreal Canadiens have an excellent goaltender in Carey Price. The Montreal Canadiens are very disciplined in the way they play defense as a team, the way they clog the neutral zone. It's like the Jets just watched the Habs all week and went, do that. And they're like, yeah, okay, that works. Because of course it works. It's a terrible matchup when you can clog the neutral zone because you only have to do it for one shift. Clog McDavid and Draisaitl for a shift. Now you have 1 to 2 shifts because those guys are going to play 25 minutes.
Right.
They're playing almost half the game.
Easy.
So you have 1.5 shifts after that, though, to go score, which you should walk all over them for those shifts.
Well, that's why I said the third line needs to be kind of almost as offensively as offensive as our top 6 and our top line, because the third line is our secret weapon, I feel like, in this series, because like we've all talked about, the depth on the Oilers is almost non-existent, really. Like, they have not a lot of good depth scoring at all. So when you have a guy like Appleton, Lowry even, who can be a really good opportunistic scorer and turn on the gas when he wants to get a goal in, and he's good at that. He's good at reading the plays because he's a defensive-minded guy, we know that, but he's offensively based as well when he wants to be. And then you have Kopp sliding back down there most likely once everything settles back. That's a line that can score because Kopp's a guy now who's an experienced top 6 guy who's played with all the talent on this team now in that top 9. So depth scoring is going to be key. I agree. If you can get if you can clog up McDavid and them, and then get a goal somehow out of any of those lines, I feel like that's our secret weapon.
Yeah. Well, and what they're trying to do too, Cahoon is trash. Like, this guy is like my.
I know.
Channel,
I see Oilers fans trying to defend him and like say he's improving.
Trash.
He's trash.
No, he's trash.
I like Cahoon, but I don't like him in a top 6 role. I think Cahoon is a middle sixer, but probably more third line type player.
But they end up putting him in the top 6 because they theoretically thinking, I think he's thinking, Dave Tippett and his all infinite wisdom, that Jesse Pool Party, I know it's Pooley RV, but Pool Party is always going to stick for me. Pool Party, Chason, and Yamamoto is a pretty good second line. It just hasn't developed yet. And you got Nugent Hopkins there too. So you got 4 guys that can, out of 3 that he's going to pick somewhere on that second line. I think he thinks having those 4 guys, mixing them up into whatever 3 combo he wants to, can do some damage, but I don't. I think especially with PLD out there, they'll get shut down. So it's great that Nugent Hopkins is a two-way player. It's great he shuts people down, but that's really all he does. What did he finish with? 30 points?
I believe so. I'm not that
35.
He's not really been a elite offensive guy the last few seasons. Really, he's kind of more settled back into that responsible second line center who's not kind of entirely offensively based anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. So, yeah, it's going to be a really interesting matchup between the Oilers and the Jets. What I find unique about this, too, is the fact that you got Pionk and Morrissey separate. The more I thought about it last night, the more I'm wondering, and I don't have this answer, I'm making it up in my head. Did he separate Morrissey and Pionk because they have home change, meaning they can put McDavid on whenever they want? You can't match McDavid. McDavid matches you.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering if he split up that pairing because if you put him out at the wrong time, and we used to do this coaching, we put our superstar out and then take him immediately right off, even before the face-off. He just goes out, touches the ice, steps off. And then you've baited him out. Mm-hmm. Or you would do little things like you'd put him near the gate, you'd have him stand up, look like he's going to jump the bench. You get those 2 guys out, you keep them off, and then you send them out against Forbert and DeMello or whatever. So I wonder if that's why they did it.
So, would you say that you would like to see Morrissey and Pionk almost like how Dallas used Klingberg and Heiskanen last year? Because what they did was those guys pretty much, when one wasn't on, the other was. Yep. Like, those were the main guys, and they like carried minutes for the Stars. But you need that.
Well,
from your best defenseman.
As a visiting team, I like what they're doing. My theory will be proven if they put Morrissey and Pionk together as the home team. Because now that I have home change, as soon as McDavid's out, I'd fire those 2 out immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
Because he can't hide from you. So if they pair up for the home game, then I'm right. If they don't, then this is just Maurice spreading out his D zone and being Maurice, which is fine.
Quick question to all of us, because we've all had our 2 cents given on this season on the defense and the way they've been set up, the pairings and whatnot. Any changes going into game 2 you'd like to see coach on the defensive side, or just roll it out and see what happens?
No, he's going to roll it the same. I wouldn't change a thing. As you said, don't fix what's not broke.
Exactly. All right, and Zach, yourself, same thing. Keep it.
Yeah, keep it.
Although I want to see Heinola in my heart. I think right now after the game we had and seeing the way Pullman played and the way that Stanley even was able to play. Even though let's not forget he did almost cost us the game, like Coach said. We all remember that bad play, but he was still able to generate almost a goal. Like if we got a doggy coming in. But anyways, back to what I was saying about that. If that Donato didn't tip that, in my opinion, that could have went in. That was a hard, accurate shot by Stanley. I think we keep it the same. I just wanted to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
Well, I would totally agree. And I would say even, I like Heinola, but when we saw him, in the times we saw him, we saw quite a few rookie mistakes, just bad decisions. And in a time like this,
one bad decision.
Okay,
that drop pass at the blue line. I don't really see a lot from him that was really bad mistakes.
I would say also too that if this is what it takes to light a fire under Pullman's butt,
Ride it out.
Keep it going, because this guy has never played as good as he's playing in that last game.
You guys think
He
maybe Pullman getting
looked
benched
really
there
good.
at the end of the season for a little bit when he was getting pulled out instead of Stanley and all those
Right.
guys? Do you think that might have lit a fire under his ass going into the playoffs when he got dressed for
No.
game 1? No.
No, I think the reason
Really?
Pullman's on this roster is Pullman is a consummate professional. I think he's well adjusted to the game, and the only reason he's made the NHL is through his attitude and work ethic, because his skating is garbage.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well-
you have to be a good team player and attitude guy to stick around when you have the skill he has. So I actually do think, for as much crap as I give Pullman, he probably comes to the ice, gives 120% every day, big body, works it out, great team guy. The truth is sometimes it's just hard to get past the personality of a person when you have a kid sitting in the background, so maybe they don't want him do him dirty. That probably is what it is. I think Pullman brings 110% every time. He's just underskilled. He's
I
never
agree.
going to
Yeah.
be overskilled. So he had a great game, and I can tell you that because I was underskilled at the level I played at, even though I played at a very high level. And there were 5 or 6 games in the year I just was on fire. I have no idea why. I was slow, chunky skater, third pairing D-man like Pullman, but I'd carry a play, and then the next day I'd be trash. So
It's just how it goes sometimes with being a player like
I
that.
couldn't afford that. I was in that. If I had a bad game, everyone knew.
yeah, that's fair.
I didn't
That's
play the
fair.
highest level either, though, so I guess some people knew.
Yeah, I grinded my way onto like the last spot of every team. So I was that guy that like they've already been signed, they're carded,
Right.
they're having a good time. This is good. And I'm sitting here like, just like, give me a shot. Give me like, please, like right till the very last minute of roster spots. Like,
You had to play
oh my God.
every preseason game, is what happened.
Well, and worse, they could cut you up until January. So I had to play
Oh.
3 months with an axe over my head the entire season. Because if someone got cut from the league above you, they'd come back, take your spot. And you're just
Right.
like, you were never safe. You're
Oh,
never safe.
buddy, there's 2 goalie spots. I feel that. Like, you'd be like, I remember I had one tryout. I let in 11 goals the entire tryout. Like, everything of ice. Every practice, everything. Letting 11 goals between all the shots. I was up. I was just like, yep, the king is back. Let's go. Let's go. And then they cut me, and I went. And they're like, oh, yeah, sorry. By the way, the AAA guy, he got cut from his team. So, yeah, you're out, kid. And I was like, oh, thanks.
Life.
That's just the best. Oh, you signed a 6-foot goalie? That's I thumbs up in 5'9". Just great job.
I feel you, man. I
Oy.
feel you.
I just sit here
It's
like,
not fun.
I played youth
Height
hockey.
issues,
not-
height issues are a thing for goalies, and it's not fair.
Oh yeah, you can't play in the NHL or any other competitive level under 6'2" now. You
No,
can't.
not.
That's why Eric Comrie, speaking of the Jets, will
Mm.
never be an elite NHL goaltender no matter what people want. He's listed at 6 feet. He's not 6
Yeah,
feet. He's 5'11",
not.
5'10" at best. He does not have the ability to play the angles required because he comes out to play the angle and
Yeah.
just pass the puck around him because he's too far out.
How tall
So
is
he'll
Fleury?
never-
How tall
Sorry?
is Fleury? How tall is Fleury? Fleury's the one that
I'm gonna
Fleury, I think, is
Google
on
it here.
the shorter
Look.
end, but I think still
I'd say
he's
6'1".
like 6 feet.
6'1"?
Yeah, he's what I would call a small goalie in today's NHL.
The
Like,
funny
that's
thing with
The closest.
with Fleury is he was a guy that changed it.
He
changed
plays out.
goaltending.
He plays
Yes.
way out.
He redefined it. So basically, Fleury is the goalie that screwed up goaltending for everybody.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. His style
Oh,
is
yeah.
like
I love those
is
early
so much
2010s teams, man.
attacking. He's
were
yeah,
trash
he's
with
practically
Fleury.
attacking the player. Well, he was like the first guy.
He was.
I think that in
Everyone
their
forgets
rebuild.
about that, and except Pittsburgh's fans. Like, even when even some Pittsburgh's fans, when they wanted him out in expansion, it's like you kind of bailing on the guy that saved your franchise. Crosby was the one that
Yep.
put the icing on the cake, but without Fleury, you're not winning those cups.
Well, Waugh brought the
Well,
butterfly.
you might move. You actually might
Exactly.
move your
Exactly.
team.
Waugh brought in the butterfly. Brodeur perfected it. Fleury brought in hybrid. Price perfected it.
Yeah.
Well, Brodeur played
is-
a lot of stand-up though too. It's worth noting.
And speaking of goaltenders, the funny thing is if you guys follow the gear, I'm sure you do, Zach.
yeah.
If you take a look at some of the goalies in the NHL now, they're now building their pads to actually cause rebounds. We all think that rebounds are bad, but these pads are now being
Yeah.
built to
I've
actually
noticed
cause
that.
such a violent rebound that it's uncontrollable by the other team and actually exits the zone. So a goalie
Yeah.
with this equipment
That-
can actually use his blocker, his pad to clear the zone on a good save as opposed to a rebound. I'm wondering how long that equipment's going to last in the NHL before they kick it out.
I like it better than the oversized pads. I always hated those things because it just
Yep.
feels
Limited
like
scoring.
it just feels like you're cheating. Like it just feels like you're cheating because like you'd have like guys like Jaguar that would go down and then his shoulders would rise like 5 feet, and you're like, oh, well, I guess I'm not scoring like top shelf because like it's just the pad type. Like it's.
Yep.
I like the amount of diversity they do have in pads though. Like for me, I use this is shameless, but I use Vaughn pads. Vaughn pads are the best. They're for boys like me that have skinny legs. Great. They're not their gloves though. Those things. Oh god. Goalie gloves? No. Like seriously, goalies are such connoisseurs about their gloves. Can't use a Vaughn glove unless I'm playing back-to-back games. That thing, the sweat, like it just hardens the whole thing. I need a CCM glove.
It's
the worst.
I just look
Speaking
at you and
of
say
goalies,
I use
guys,
the baseball glove. That was my glove.
Where is the goaltending in the Pittsburgh New York series, and where is the goaltending in the Florida Tampa Bay series? It's just gone.
Thank God, at least 4-1 though. At least 4-1, baby.
Jari was gone after game 1. Like okay.
But question: do you guys actually like Jari, or do you think he's just going to be another Matt Murray? Because I kind of think he's just another Matt Murray in the making, like a guy who's going to be good.
And then the guy who's after him is Casey DeSmith, and then he'll be another Matt Murray.
Exactly.
They don't have stable goaltending.
Pittsburgh's just pumping out 2-year solutions, man, and they're trading them when they're at okay.
Jari's junk. Pittsburgh's that good of a team that they make him look good. They never should have let Fleury get exposed, and they're learning from it.
I feel so bad for Drieger, though. The guy's just, like, I think he's a good goalie, and I'm not just saying that because he used to be my goalie coach when I was a kid, but, like, I think it's just an experience, honestly. Like, he's going up against a high-powered Tampa Bay Lightning.
What? You feel bad. Let me clarify this. Okay. You feel bad for a goaltender making that much money, even if it's league minimum.
Yes.
Displacing a $10 million a year goalie game 2 of the playoffs. You feel bad.
He got pulled in game 3.
Yeah, well, he stunk in 2.
God,
he had his shot like an Eminem song. He had spaghetti on his shoe and blew it.
Okay, just because he doesn't necessarily always make the most of his opportunities doesn't mean I don't have the right to pity the situation. I can still have my favorite goalies given that situation. Just because a guy doesn't show up doesn't mean I have to exile him from my thoughts. I'm like, you are nothing. I don't like you. You are bad. Therefore, I hate you. No, this isn't the Jets' reaction.
Zach,
I don't have to be mad about it.
I gotta clarify it with you. I pity people that end up getting COVID and getting long hauler symptoms. I pity people that get sick. Hold on, I pity people that have mortgage problems. I don't pity professional athletes for blowing it. You made it to the pros. You did more than I did. Guess what, pal? Welcome to the job. Your only job is stop the puck. You didn't do it. Next.
Is this the PCP? Is this the Prairie COVID podcast? No. This is the Prairie Puck Podcast.
I'm just telling you.
Speaking of COVID, you boys are digging in deep over there in Manitoba
right
now, man.
Let's talk though. I pity John Tavares after.
I was just about to bring that up.
Okay,
what
do you think?
I have a lot to say on this because I was kind of furious because I'm plugged into Twitter a lot. It's my kind of main source for the NHL media, that and Reddit, and I was livid because all I saw were Leafs fans defending. Attacking Corey Perry and justifying that fight. That fight pissed me off beyond belief. I don't care if it's for sparking the bench
or about it.
He was. I got no beef with Corey Perry. My beef is with the Leafs. You could tell that Foligno and what they were saying, they think it was intentional a little bit. I think.
Well,
even the commentators were saying that they think it's intentional a little bit. The Leafs commentators were I'm talking about Leafs players and Leafs media. The way they reacted, that looks intentional, and that is a bad look for your franchise. Because with all the stuff going on with Tom Wilson, the suspension, the league being under such scrutiny as it is with the player health organization, and a star like Tavares almost dying on the ice because he could have if he was hit harder with the way that it was on his neck. This is a make or break moment for the league and how they and the Leafs and the whole world. Everyone was watching. I tuned into that game just for that at that point.
Yeah,
and that's your response to something like that. Your captain going down to fight a guy for a complete accident. I'm sorry, I don't think it's justified, and I think that it's almost disrespectful to John Tavares in a way because it's a complete accident. You should be there for your team. You shouldn't be fighting a guy for an accident. You don't fight somebody for accidents like that. You just don't in hockey. In my opinion.
You could see how regretful he looked too, though.
Oh, the moment.
I don't feel bad for Corey Perry ever, but you know
what?
I
felt bad for him today.
That guy looked.
That was the wrong place, the wrong time.
The look on his face was one of trauma. His buddy got hurt. He is friends with Tavares. He said it after his media interview.
They played in Canada, Team Canada.
Yeah,
Yep.
he felt horrible for it. He doesn't want to ever end a career. He wants to squirt water in your glove and slash you in the ankle when you're not looking.
Exactly.
He doesn't
Squirting
want
water
to
in your glove is just funny. Like that's
It's funny,
funny.
but
It's
he
just
doesn't
funny.
want to do that. And that
Exactly.
fight from
Oh, God damn it. I'm
Foligno.
on camera.
Fun fact about Corey Perry, guys. Corey Perry led the junior league in fights that he was from, and Brian Burke was the first person to tell him, you are no longer fighting. You're not allowed to fight. I will pay somebody to fight for you. You're going to score goals. So Corey Perry actually is a very, very good fighter, and you could see.
To be honest, Simmons is not he's not there to be a playmaker. He's like Bogosian. We know why he's here. And I'll be honest, I get a little annoyed when I see Simmons out there because I know he's coming after someone. But at the same time, he does have there's a use for that. And I understand that. But I'm happy at least that it was Foligno that did that. A guy who has, shall we say, a more skill-based game than a guy who's just there for that wanted him to answer the bell. I still would argue that it's not a fight that has to happen, but if the team feels like they need to rally around something because their spirit is crushed, I can understand where they're coming from.
Well, and from my experience in games, you can point to all the miracles on ice you want because it's easy to find them, but they're very rare. When a player of his caliber gets hurt in the game, you're done. You're morally crushed. You
100%.
can see Matthews morally crushed. You normally do not come out and win it for your buddy. You do it in the next game. But in that current game, you're so mentally distraught that you just don't play well, and you could see it. So the Habs go up 1-0. I still think the Leafs are going to take this in 5 or 6.
Oh,
no
100%.
Problem.
I
no
think
problem.
they should.
I don't know now.
This is not... Well, okay, no, but you know what? Like, that shock value of what happened to...
It's only one game, I get
Tavares, that you get the shock value out at game 1. Game 2, you are playing for him.
It's not the shock value per se that I think changes the swing of the series. It's potentially the loss of Tavares, because now we don't really have a timeline yet when he will return. Most likely it won't be...
I think it's a couple of weeks for sure.
It's
like,
minimum.
I don't think he's back till round 2, if they make it to round 2. Are we gonna... This is dog.
It's okay. I agree with that, and that's my thing, because it's my big concern now with the series, if you're a Leafs fan, is your team, Tavares has been a huge part. He's your captain. He's a huge part of your organization. He's the guy that kind of put you on the map when it came to the Shanna plan. Like, Matthews was Matthews, but that was huge, getting a guy
that capable. He was the guy that they needed to get.
Exactly. So now that you lose that, after having a very good season, the leadership that they have on that team, he's a huge part of it. I think it could affect their top 6 and how they play. Personally,
well,
I think that with a hole that big in their top 6, the Habs are a dirty fighting team. Not dirty. I don't mean like that, but they fight. They fight. Like they play hard. They're tough. That's a better word. Thank you. And I think that's a team in a situation like this where the Leafs are a little bit more shorthanded now with that center spot and everything. I think that they could maybe find a way to pull out some games and get lucky. If Carey Price can steal you a game, and you can, and which he easily can, and you have Carey Price do that, and then you have maybe another game where you have some depth guys like the Jets this last game 1, score and get you a game that way. You're up three goal games right there in a 4-game win series. That's pretty close to winning.
Your best players need to be your best players.
Exactly.
And
it's Montreal.
Their best players weren't. Their power play, and don't get me wrong, Montreal went 0 for 5 on the power play. Toronto went 0 for 4, but Toronto actually gave up a shorthanded goal that would be the game winner.
Yep.
Like, that is something that you cannot have happen. And I would like to say, though, this is probably the toughest matchup first round, I would say, for the Leafs, because this is not a team like the Oilers or the Jets, which primarily have a offensive team.
Yes.
The Canadiens can play stingy defense. Look at the last minute of that game. Did you think a puck was going to get through to the net? I did not for a second. There was like 5 bodies in front of the net. There was no way a puck was getting there. It was just shut down hockey.
Well, the Leafs have one of the worst power plays for a talented team that I've ever seen. I actually spent quite a bit of time breaking it down tonight, what's going on with it and why it's screwed up. So go check that out if you want to see some clips.
Yeah.
But here's the deal with the Leafs, guys. 5-on-5, they're elite AF. And even with John Tavares out, this lineup maybe you know what, it is deeper than the Jets. It's one of the deep.
Oh, for sure.
The Leafs,
for sure.
Yeah,
I'm not arguing that there.
The Leafs and Tampa Bay have the 2 deepest lineups, and the Avalanche.
The only other team I'd throw in there, only other team personally that I would throw in there, just my 2 cents, I would put Florida in that mix as well for their depth this year.
Dark horse, Carolina Hurricanes?
Maybe. But Carolina's depth isn't as great. Carolina, we're talking about complete depth. I think Florida has better depth.
Right. I would. Okay, that's fair.
Carolina is what Montreal aspires to be.
Yes.
100%.
That's
100%.
They are what Montreal aspires to be. They have a few extra key elite players in Aho and Trocheck. So, I mean, if guys like Nick Suzuki, Cole Caulfield, and KK end up developing to like near Sebastian Aho level, then you can have a Carolina Hurricanes 2.0.
If I'm not mistaken, Caulfield and Kotkaniemi did not play tonight, if I'm not mistaken.
No, they got benched. Ducharme benched him. He wanted to win a 2-1 defensive game, and you know what?
He won it.
The Montreal media beat the crap out of him for it. I still think he should have had one of them in for scoring, but like, good job. They won. They won 2-1. And can they win this series 4 in a row 2-1? Probably not, but
they can maybe steal a couple more games, steal another game. That's what I'm telling you about, because there's certain element this is something that I always remember going into a playoff match, and that is when you are a team with elite top tier like league talent, guys like Hellebuck, a goaltender, a guy like McDavid, Matthews, whatever it is, those guys can single-handedly not win you a game, or not win you a series, but they can win you a game in the playoffs, just single-handedly off of a bad performance. So when you have a magic man like Price back there, who has it being inconsistent at times, but when you have a guy that good, that can potentially steal you a game, and only you need to win 4, and you've already won 1, that's 2 right there. You're halfway there.
Yep.
And who knows what else happens, like you said, Coach. Maybe they play another 2-1, they can win 1 more. That's 3. So it's not their series to lose. It's still the Leafs to lose, in my opinion.
Yes,
but they might be in more of a fighting battle now than the Leafs expected if they lose Tavares for a long-term situation.
Yeah, and what this hurts the Leafs for, and Leafs fans are going to know this whether they admit it or not, this really hurts your cup chances.
100%.
I don't think it's a minimum 2-week injury to Tavares. Yeah. This probably ends your hope for a cup, to be honest.
This is your Joe Pavelski moment, maybe, if he comes back.
Maybe. I mean, if he comes back in 2 weeks, it's a spark, and they can win the cup. I mean, if he's only conkied and he's not, he doesn't have any broken vertebrae or anything. Because I mean, as horrible as this all looks, guys, he could absolutely just have a 2 or 3 day concussion that he has to follow a 2-week protocol, and he could be back no problem.
Yep.
Well, based on the way they're saying
he could be fine. He could also be laid up in a hospital bed, not allowed to leave for a week. We don't know.
Also, Coach, like you said in the group chat earlier, Coach, the thumbs up is a huge sign.
Huge.
Yeah.
Huge sign.
Okay, here's my question, though, okay? I'm not going to say it's not. I would say, though, is there a situation where he doesn't thumbs up? Like, okay, so just think of it this way, okay?
If you're unconscious or not, you keep conscious enough to be able to do it.
As long as he's conscious, I think he thumbs up anyway, because I think he knows that everyone is watching and probably terrified. Like, I'm not saying to, like, discredit this. I'm just saying we should at least have the knowledge that he could still be very, very injured and still do a thumbs up, because he is a hockey player, and hockey players are known to be tough.
You have to take into context, Zach, the way the injury was. To me, it almost looked like the guy almost looked like he seized a little bit there when he passed out, with the way the doctors were handling everything. Like, it looks scary. So if that's this kid's situation and he regained consciousness, I've known people that have seizures, and they've been fine like a minute after it, but it doesn't mean you're long term you're okay. So
agreed. Yeah,
I think that even though he could have been conscious enough to do it, we have no idea what it could have been. So maybe he did it like you said, but it is a good sign nonetheless, because you want to have, if going from that a minute to being able to confidently do that, and him even trying to get up, but the doctor's holding him down, they're good signs.
Yeah,
so hopefully there is some relief there for you Leafs fans out there. No one ever wants to see a guy get hurt, especially a guy as amazing as Tavares as a player, and also in the way he did. So our thoughts are with you guys right now. Put the differences aside for the common unity of a hurt player. So good luck to you guys in that series. And I want to kind of harken this back to the Jets for the last maybe 10 minutes before we end this episode here. Any last thoughts you guys want to get out about the game going into tomorrow and the rest of this series? Kind of keep it brief, but just any of your thoughts on the top of your head right now to end it off for us, for the listeners. I'll start with you, Coach.
Go, Coach.
Okay, I'm not going to talk about anything tactical. I'm going to talk about the hockey fates and the hockey gods. Because,
go for it, baby. Go for it.
Guys, it snowed in Edmonton. A legit whiteout.
When I saw that, I was like, I couldn't help but smile.
I was trying to do that for my thumbnail. I was trying to find a photo of that. I couldn't find one.
It was on Twitter.
So I was like, screw it. I'll use Pullman in it.
Edmontonians were pissed off that it's snowing, because I'm pissed off when it snows in Winnipeg. They were pissed off that the whiteout was coming to their team, and one dude was walking down the street just having a good day, saw the fact that snow was coming, and it dawned on him. He's like, frick,
Yep,
Jets.
you know it.
Whiteout.
That's what
Problem.
happened in
And he
Winnipeg,
told all his buddies, and all
Minnesota.
his buddies thought he was crazy and blah, blah, blah. And then he said, see, told you so.
You
know
know
one
it.
guy in Edmonton
You
did
know
that.
it, man.
You know it.
You know it.
Because I would do it.
Right,
100%.
exactly. It's
100%.
worth
If
noting.
it started raining oil in Winnipeg, like we struck oil and became the oil capital of Canada out of nowhere, I'd be like, we're screwed.
That's
We're
too
screwed.
sus.
man.
That's too sus. We do not deserve this power.
No.
No, that's the same thing happened in 2018 in Minnesota. There was like snowstorms when we came in.
I remember
and then
that.
we beat them.
We had a hard
both
time getting the
times.
bus through.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because we lost game 1 because we had to like reroute our flights and stuff. And then we just killed them in game 2 and then murdered them, or game 4, and then murdered them in game 5.
Exactly.
Yep.
It was all good.
So that's my last thoughts.
All right, Zach, over to
The
you.
whiteout's coming.
Exactly,
Honestly,
baby.
I don't know what else there is to say. Like, I just want to see PLD show up. Like, I
Oh.
just want to see him show up.
He's
Because
a wild card.
I've been I'm gonna be honest. Like the last couple games this season, I was giving him the micro award for the worst Jet because like, it's not necessarily that he was the worst man on the ice. It's just that compared to where he needs to be and what the expectation is and what we've seen from him in the past,
And what we gave up for him.
he needs to do something. Make it look like you matter in the top 6. Don't be like fighting for line 3 minutes.
I agree with
Just-
that. I was going to talk
needs
about
to be
that too,
better.
going into my point is I've got 3 little things that I want, really kind of bullet points. One,
Yeah.
like you, Zach, if PLD comes in and PLD is even half the player he was in that Leafs series last year, that's a huge weapon. A huge,
Good.
huge weapon against the Oilers team,
Right.
especially with the way he plays that center position. You have a guy like that
Uh-huh.
matching up potentially against McDavid in your top 6. He can make the first line's defensive issues non-existent if he can hammer out McDavid and keep that balanced well. The second big thing, in my opinion, Connor Hellebuck needs to be Connor Hellebuck again. And I know that seems
Yep.
like a simple thing, but if he can't be the way he was last game and almost every game he plays this playoffs, we're going to have problems because there were some times where he did bail us out and we could have lost because he made some great saves. And the third thing is I want to see the depth keep performing the way they performed last game and honestly in the last little bit of the season. If the depth can stay as consistent as they are from different guys showing up and having these important plays and driving the team and helping out when we're not getting as much offense from that top 6, that's how you win a series against a team that's top heavy and relies on 2 players. You beat them with depth, you beat them down in your bottom lines, and you beat them with your bottom pairings. And that's what the Jets did in game 1, and I hope they can continue doing that for the rest of this 7-game series. And with all that being said, I think we're going to wrap up this episode here. So thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. Make sure to go subscribe to Hot Garbage Sports on YouTube, Peg City Hockey myself on YouTube, as well as the Nolan Hockey Podcast, where you'll be watching this video. If you're listening on Spotify right now, make sure to go subscribe to all of our channels and check out all of our socials. The link is in the description for this podcast, so go ahead and check all that out. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Prairie Puck Podcast, Episode 3. Go Jets, go. This is going to be a good game today. Make sure to tweet at us and all the stuff on Instagram. Message us about your thoughts on the game. Make sure to join the Discord as well, which will be in the link of the description. And make sure to turn on notifications on my channel if you haven't already, along with Coach, because Episode 4 will be dropping on my channel next Friday. So with all that being said, thank you so much for watching this podcast. We're the Prairie Puck Podcast. Have a great rest of your day, and bye-bye.